matter experts get those answers to you. And third, there are some resources I can send you today. If I have your work email, I can send those resources to you. If I don't, I can't. So that's that. So we're going to wait about 4 minutes to make sure everybody's here that wants to be here. Typically, we have people coming in a little later at times. While we're waiting, though, I'm just going to point out a few things in the portal to just bring to your attention. So we spend a lot of our time here, and I know you have other responsibilities than perusing the NC Tracks webpage. So I just want to point out a few things. You may be familiar, you may not. First off, if you have people getting started with NC Tracks, this is a great place to go because it talks about getting their NCID and getting started. This is what we call the home page, and this is what pops up once you log in. Provider user guides and training, that takes you to our page. Right now, you can see the January classes. We should have the February classes up shortly. They were given to Provider Communications recently. Under that, we have a couple resources. One on the side, this is where you'll find everything for non-emergency medical transportation. Our user guides and fact sheets are here. Now, with our user guides and fact sheets, they're categorized by area for a quick perusal through. And down below that, we have a whole bunch of fact sheets for different areas. So there's that. Provider enrollment. We have all the information there. So any of these gray tabs on the side will take you to those pages. And one thing to know about these pages is there's quick links on every page, and the quick links change depending on what of these tabs you're on. So this one's for enrollment. So everything in the quick links deals with enrollment. Anytime you want to go back, you can always either use the home to go back. That'll take you back to here. You can also click the NC Tracks logo to take you back there. When you click on providers, this brings you to the provider, what we call public pages. Anybody who has this address can look and see what's on this page. It has all the provider announcements. As you see, the quick links have changed. And on this page, the quick links talks about the check rate schedule for the years, cover sheet for claims, and that kind of stuff, as well as provider change of ownership information down at the bottom. One thing we're going to be looking at today is this right here is the office administrator change process. So that's what we're going to be talking about today, going through this process. But you can see we have things for provider communications, getting started, frequently asked questions, all sorts of information here. Okay. If you're looking for a practitioner to see if they're enrolled in Medicaid for the state, you can look them up here. And so there's that. And we're almost at 9:35. So, and we have most people here. So I am going to begin our presentation. Thank you, everybody, for putting your work email in the chat. I appreciate that. And let's go from here. So today, what I ask you to do is please stay, since there's so many of us, please stay on mute. At the end, we'll have a question and answer session after we're all done. I will go through the presentation. I'll go through the PowerPoint. I'll go through using our training portal to demonstrate some things, and then we'll open it up for questions. If you're afraid of losing your question while we're going through everything, you can type it in the chat. If I have time and I feel comfortable, I may answer it right then. But the advantage of having it in the chat is I have it in your own words. So if I have to go and talk to a subject matter expert, I have it in your own words, and I won't forget your question. So there's that. My name is Doug Schmidt. I am one of a couple trainers for the state, and our role is to help you understand NC Tracks better. Doesn't necessarily mean we are the experts in all aspects, but we do have the resources where we can reach out to those subject matter experts, like I mentioned, to get your questions answered. So let's see. All right. So this course is going to describe the process for changing the current office administrator to a new office administrator for an individual provider, an organization with an NPI number, or an atypical provider. At the completion of this training, we're going to address a couple things. One, we're going to update the OA for an individual provider organization, upgrade existing users to managing relationships, and something new that just happened at the end of last year was how to disassociate from an office administrator. It's a new part of our secure provider portal, and I just wanted to point that out as we go through this training. So let's go through the overview for this. Now, the office administrator must be one of the following. Either an individual provider, so an individual provider can be their own office administrator, managing employee, owner, shareholder, partner, agent, board director, director, or officer. So an office administrator in a one provider office, it might be the physician themselves taking over that role, but typically in most organizations, there's somebody who's running the day-to-day operations of the office, and that is typically who gets assigned to be that office administrator. So this is the process for updating an office administrator. The new office administrator should be completing and submitting the change officer administrator application. Now, these application requests are given high priority once received by the enrollment unit for review. The estimated turnaround time is 2 to 3 weeks for applications that require credentialing. And we'll talk a little bit about that. So here, it's a process. The new office administrator submits a change office application. If credentialing is required, it'll then go to enrollment for their review. And once it's approved, it'll come over here and an email will be sent to the new OA stating, congrats, you're the new office administrator. And the old office administrator will receive a email saying, sorry, you're no longer the office administrator. Now, if for some reason the application is not approved, it doesn't pass credentialing, then the new OA receives a denial email and the previous OA remains on record because nothing has changed. All right. So the rule of thumb is generally, if a provider wants to change anything on an approved application, then all the office administrator has to do is to complete a managed change request. With the change office administrator application process, it's different. It's completed by filling out an application. That application may go through credentialing process because some part of the change OA may require credentialing. May. Okay, so especially if they've never been credentialed before in the system, it will go through a credentialing process. But if somebody has already gone through that credentialing process for Medicaid, then they're automatically processed through. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So the new office administrator will need the following. They have to have a valid North Carolina ID, NCID. They also need the authorization code for the NPI or atypical ID. Now, that authorization code is given when a provider first enrolls in the organization. If you do not have that authorization code, you can call the NC Tracks Operations Contact Center, and they will process to be able to give you that auth code. Now, the new Office Administrator will navigate to NC Tracks Provider Portal homepage. So I'm just going to walk through this on our slides, and then I'll take you into our training portal to demonstrate. So on the NC Tracks Provider Portal homepage, you select the Office Administrator OA change process. And that's what I was showing you a little earlier when I was showing you the public pages. You would go to this button here, and you're going to log in through this lock. Now, this, of course, looks like the lock that you always sign in with to the secure portal, but this takes you to a different place. So this is where you want to go to change the process. This will take you to that application that will allow you to make that Office Administrator change. So you select that button. It brings you to the login page, just like you would when you sign in anytime into the secure portal. But as you see, it says the OA change process. Of course, it'll ask for your username. And if you have any issues, you can select this for need help or trouble signing on. Or if you don't have an NCID, you can register now. So this is your NCID username. And then it'll prompt you for your password. If a user is required to use multi-factor authentication, the state system will prompt that for the individual based on what was selected. Also, passwords are case sensitive. After 3 unsuccessful attempts, the user will be locked out. However, NC Tracks will provide a contact number that the user can call for access assistance. Multi-factor authentication is required. So this is the first page of the Office Administrator change thing. You put in your authorization code. That's why you need that code right at the get-go. The NPI of the provider or the atypical ID for that provider, and then you select Next. Okay. And as I mentioned, if the new OA no longer has the code, they can contact the NC Tracks Operations Contact Center at 1-800-688-6696. If the provider's NPI is new to NC Tracks, an authorization code has been created for the provider. If the new OA needs the code, there again, they should call the NC Tracks Operations Contact Center. So in the past, it used to be that you could just change the Office Administrator by doing a managed change request or calling. Well, they made this change, and getting the authorization code, you used to be able to call up and just say, hey, I'm with this provider. Here's the last 4 digits of their EIN or social security number, and they would give you the auth code. The state decided that that was too not secure enough. So to prevent unauthorized users from accessing the provider record without provisioning, the process was implemented for requesting the NPI. So if you don't, an NPI authorization code. So if you don't have that NPI authorization code, this is what you do. When you call the NC Tracks Operations Contact Center, if you're an individual provider, you'll have to supply your social security number and date of birth of the individual provider. And you must have 2 items from the list below: any taxonomy code on record, license or certification number, or trading partner affiliation name, graduation date, or board certification date. This is all to verify that you are the person or the organization that should have access to that authorization code, because that authorization code gives somebody pretty much carte blanche to change anything in the provider record. So we want to make sure that the people getting it are the only ones that should be getting it. When if you're an organization, similar, you have to provide your employee identification number and 2 items from this list. And you'll be prompted, you'll be asked by the call center agent, can I have this information? They will then submit it and certain individuals will double check the information to make sure it's valid, and they will call you back with your authorization code. What the call center agent will also ask is, can I have a good phone number for us to call you back at? We have found that a direct line to that individual is the best way, so we're not playing phone tag. They'll also ask you for what's the best time to call, or mornings, afternoons, all day, whatever. So make sure you give them that information correctly. And this happens pretty quickly. Typically, if you call and ask for this, within a few hours, somebody's calling you back with that authorization code once the information has been verified. Okay, let me go here. So this is what the Change Office Administrator page looks like for an individual. Just like everywhere in NC Tracks, if you see a red asterisk, that is required information that you have to fill out. The last name will display for the NPI previously entered on that verify authorization page. If this name is incorrect for some reason, the Office Administrator Provider should double check the NPI entered and re-enter it, or contact the NC Tracks Operations Contact Center. So the new Office Administrator will identify if they're actual individual provider or a managing employee for that provider record. The new OA or the actual provider will enter all the required information on the page. The new OA is presented with the question, do you want existing users to continue to have access to this NPI? It's down here at the bottom. It's a very important question. If yes, if you answer yes, all users, owners, and managing employees, including the OA, will remain associated with the provider record. The new OA, once they are installed, can then remove the old OA from the provider record once their Change Office Administrator application is approved. And a new Office Administrator can end date them as managing employee or owner through a managed change request. All existing users associated with the old Office Administrator and NPI will be moved to the new Office Administrator. If you say no, any existing user, excluding the owner and managing employee users, who logs into NC Tracks will no longer see the message center for the NPI or have access to claims, check eligibility, prior approval, drop-down menus. So if no is selected and the OA later decides that the user does not need access, the OA can add the user via new user setup. So if you select no, I don't want them, everybody in your office is going to be cut out of being able to access this. So now, granted, if for some reason the office had recently changed hands and you have a whole new crew coming in, you might want to choose no. But in most cases, you're going to choose yes. And then when the new Office Administrator gets certified, they can just delete the people that they want from that list. Just want to clarify that because that's a big question to answer them. So this is showing for the organization page. It's very similar. All they have to do is fill out the required information. It has that same question at the bottom. You want existing users to continue to have access to this NPI. So that's all the same. Just a little bit different information for an employer, or an organization. Now on the exclusion sanction information page, exclusion sanction questions must be answered for the enrolling provider, its owners, and agents. An agent's defined as any person who's been delegated the authority to obligate or act on behalf of the provider. This may include managing employees, general managers, business managers, office managers, administrators, electronic funds transfer authorized individuals, individual officers, directors, board members, etc. Now, all applicable adverse legal actions must be reported, regardless of whether any records were expunged or any appeals are pending. For each exclusion sanction question answered, yes, you must submit a complete copy of the applicable criminal complaint, consent order, documentation, and/or final disposition, clearly indicating the final resolution, in addition to a written explanation of the supporting documentation. Now, that's a thorough written explanation signed by the subject of the offense if it's an individual, or by the provider's office administrator if the subject of the offense is an organization of the occurrence, and dated within 6 months of the application date by the provider's office administrator, an owner or managing employee of the occurrence, including references to the infraction conviction dates and entered and the resolution. Okay. Failure to submit all of the requested information may result in an application being deemed incomplete. Enter the required fields for each question that is answered yes. Supporting documentation must be submitted. Now, this page does not display if the new OA is the actual individual provider. So if it's an individual provider, they've already signed this exclusion sanction page before, so they don't have to do it again for the office administrator, if they're being their own office administrator. Now, recently, as of last year, new questions have been added to this page, so please read all questions carefully. The page will differ for individuals and organizations. There's one question on here, and I always struggle finding it. It's right around here. It talks, has the individual been received any issues besides a traffic violation? And I had one provider call in, and she had a DUI. Well, that's not a per the lines here. It's not a minor traffic violation. She thought it was. She answered no to that instead of yes. And when the system went to verify this information, it was found that she didn't answer properly, and her enrollment application was denied. Or in this case, it would be the new office administrator would be denied. So she would have had to go in and answer it yes, and then correct that information. But she thought it was a DUI, was a minor traffic violation, which it isn't. So make sure you read them carefully, especially the new ones, which down at the bottom, I think we're up to question S now, A through S. So, and then once you complete that, you move on from there. And on here, upload and submit page, you enter the required fields and submit the change office administrator application. The electronic attachment section is displayed only if yes was answered to one of the exclusion sanction questions on the previous page. You can select browse and attach applicable documents as required. If you're not able to electronically attach your documents, you can submit them after submission of the application via fax or email. And the new OA here has to respond to the attestation statement and enter their user ID and password and select submit. The applicant will then receive a PDF version of the application request to retain for their records. If there is no IntelliCorp background check on file that is less than 6 months old, based on the Social Security number of the new office administrator, then credentialing is required. After the application is approved, the new office administrator should then see the provider's NPI on the status of management page. If the new OA is denied, like I said before, the old office administrator remains on the file. If no credentialing is required, then within 24 hours, the new OA will receive a change office administrator approval email. They will receive a PIN email if the new OA's NCID is new to NC Tracks. The old OA will receive a change OA office administrator email, and the new office administrator will be able to see the provider's NPI on their status management page in the provider portal. Now, If the new OA is an owner or managing employee, the system queries NC Tracks to determine if there's a background check on file. If there is a background check on file within the last 6 months, like I said, no credentialing will be required, and the new OA becomes the OA upon submission. If there is no background check in the last 6 months, credentialing will be required. So if the new OA will be completing the change office administrator application for more than one NPI, he or she should complete the first application and approval process. After the first application is approved, future submissions with the same office administrator will not require credentialing. So here's the deal with that. Here's an example. If the new office administrator is going into a medical practice and there's 5 providers there, instead of putting in a new office administrator application for all 5 providers at once, if that person needs credentialing, it's going to have to go through the process 5 times for each provider. Yet if they put it in for one provider and it gets approved, once it's approved, then they can put it in for the other 4 and they'll automatically be processed in. So it saves a little bit of time for you if you're the new office administrator, not having to complete go through the credentialing each time, and it just makes it a little easier on our enrollment staff to process things too, because they won't have to do it 5 times. They'll only have to do it the 1 time. Hope that makes sense. As I said, when it's approved, both the previous and new OAs will receive emails. And this is what looks like with a email for changing office administrator. And this is what the email looks like to a new office administrator. And this is if a change office administrator application does not require credentialing, or the change office administrator application is approved during the process, an email will be sent to the new OA in the NC Tracks. If it's denied, like I said, the new OA will receive a denial email. Okay, so I'm going to go out to our training portal and just show you what this looks like, just so we have that. So this mimics the live portal. We're not going to sign in here at the secure portal, because that won't take us to where we need to go. We need to go to the office administrator change process. And now we see that that's OA change process here. Also, you see all the different quick links here, and as well as any updates and any other information you may need here. So we're going to click on this. Looks just like our regular login. Click on the blue lock. Oh, sometimes that does. In our training portal, I have to do it twice sometimes. Okay, here we go. You put in your password. And it brings you to the page for this. As I said, there's the required fields. We put in the auth code. You put in the NPI or atypical ID. Can't put in both. You can only put in one. And then you select next. This brings you to that page. And this is showing it for an organization. You have to select whether you're a managing employee or owner. If you select it as owner, some things change here that you have to fill out. You see, I attest that I've entered the full legal name of the individual. If it's a managing employee, well, actually, let's see. Oh, what happens is between the two, if you look, this is all you have to fill out. But if you select owner, then you have to select relationship to another disclosing and percent ownership control interest with that. Okay. So basically, all you have to do is come through, fill out all the information, make sure you hit the attestation, and remember this question on the bottom: do you want existing users to have access to this NPI? Okay, let me put in different things here. Let's see. Business relationship, managing employee, and you can hover over these, any drop down, and it'll explain it sometimes throughout NC Tracks. Just wanted to point that out. Address. And then you can, once you have it, oh, I forgot the date of birth. It'll prompt you for these things. If you make a mistake, it'll require you to put in things if you make mistakes too. All the other things are filled out. Here's that exclusion sanction. And once you select yes, it opens up and you have to put in that information. And after each one that you answer yes to, you also have to select add. So you're going to put in that date. And then on the next page, it would prompt you to submit the documents that are required. So you have to go down through all these and read them, answer yes or no. If you miss one, it's going to prompt you to change it. What's interesting here, this is the training portal. It looks like they haven't updated the exclusion sanction page because it now goes down to S. And here it's the attestation statement saying I certify the responses to this, and then it'll prompt you for your user ID and password. And like I said, on this page, it would also ask you to upload and submit if you answered yes to any of the previous questions. Okay. Let me go back and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Let me go back. I'm going to show you what it looks like for an individual. It's not that much different. Uh, Oh, let me go back here. Oh, had an extra 9 in there. Okay. So you could see that it really doesn't look any different. You choose whether you're a managing employee or an the actual individual provider instead of the other one had um, agent or owner. So this is a little different. Um, this information is you fill out that information. And do you want the existing users that has that same question? And all the other pages are exactly the same. Okay. So I mean, it's a real simple process. Basically, you're just filling in the information of the new office administrator that it's going to be. So they have that. And once submitted, it goes through the enrollment to check for credentialing if credentialing is needed. Do make sure that you have the correct email addresses too. If you don't have, if you don't double check that, you might not get the response you're looking for if the wrong email is in there. Okay, and it's good to double check your responses. Let's go back to our PowerPoint and we'll talk a little bit about upgrading users. Okay, so if yes was selected for the question, do you want existing users to continue to have access to this NPI during the change process? You can upgrade existing users to different roles by searching for the users via the user administration user maintenance page. And of course, if no was, then you're going to have to input the people that you do want into that. To upgrade a user, you must complete the following steps. Locate and open the record of the user to be upgraded. Select yes for the question. Do you want to upgrade an existing user or managing employee to a managing relationship? Select the user from the owner managing employee dropdown and save the changes. So this is what it looks like. And I'm actually going to go back into the training portal and show you what it looks like in the system. So let's go back. And we'll go home here. So this is the status and management screen. And here's that user administration. So you can go into this user administration. And this is where there's a new group wizard if you're setting up your office for the first time. It talks about what kind of accounts there are, administration, office administrator, administrative users, etc. You can do user maintenance. So this is where if you want to set up a new user, or you can search by a previous user. I don't know if any of these will actually work in the training portal. Nope. Nope. But you would put in their, if you're searching for them, you put in their last name or email. You see that there's no red asterisks here. So you can put in as little or as much information as you want. You can choose what kind, whether they're active, suspended, or closed, what groups. So a provider may have a claims group. They may have a prior approval group, an eligibility group, enrollment specialist. So they could search by that. You have to put in their last name or some way to identify them. If you press new user setup, here it walks you through that. Is the new user an owner? Do they have a manager relationship or account? You can select no or yes. A PIN allows the user to submit secure forms in the NC Tracks provider portal. And once you do this, then you can input that kind of information, choose what kind of user they're going to be, and input that information. So that's using this aspect. And like I said before, you can also do group maintenance. And with group maintenance, You can search by them. This is where you can create a new group, or you can use the group wizard. And here, this is just prompting you, creating the name, creating the description, and you can go through the process for setting these up. Okay. So here is what it looks like editing a user. You can go through and edit any of their information. And once you submit it, you get a verification that the user was, in fact, updated. Something new. This is new as of last September, I think, maybe October. Disassociating from an office administrator. What was added was this My Account section to the Secure Provider Portal page. From that section, it allows you to disassociate from an office administrator with whom they're no longer affiliated. So what you would do is you go into the My Account page. It provides information about all the office administrators with whom the provider is affiliated with. If an office administrator with whom the provider is no longer affiliated on the list on this page, you can select that checkbox next to the OA name. After selecting all the OAs with whom the provider is no longer affiliated, you can just select and remove right here. So you click these boxes here, and then you can select this, and it'll allow you to delete those from your account. Now, if you are an office administrator for an account, you cannot remove your access from this page. This can only be done after a new OA submits the change office administrator application and becomes the OA for the NPI. Once that's been completed, then you can remove access from the new OA. So back again to our, I'm going to go back to home. It's right here. It says check your account. You pull it up and you see that there's two listed here. One, this one you can't delete because you're the OA, or in this case, I'm the OA. William Brisky is the OA for this. He can't delete that, but we could delete this one. You just check that box and check remove, and it'll be done. I think it's a nice addition to the system that the state decided to put in last fall. All right. Okay. As I had mentioned, there's OA change job aid and resources. Some of these I will be sending you if I have your work email in the chat to help you along so you don't have to fumble for them. And so that's basically a wrap up of new office administrator. You should be able to update the office administrator for an individual provider or an organization and upgrade existing users to different relationships in your organization, as well as disassociate from a office administrator. Do you have any questions? As an OA, when someone leaves the agency, is there a way to remove them? Yes, that is where you would go. You would go into this user administration, and you can delete them from here. Okay. So once you pull them up, then you'll be able to delete them if need be. And I'm pretty sure, I'll double check. I think there is and I think I have it in my files, and I'll send it to everyone. User management job aid that can help with that. Okay. Hope that answers that question. Any other questions? So if an OA leaves and we need to move all the accounts that were under that OA to a new one, we'll have to obtain authorization codes for each one. So Angela, if you're telling me, so if an office, I'm talking hundreds between all of our locations and providers. Um, that is a great question. Um, um, I don't think there is any shortcut way around it. For each NPI, yes, you'd have to have the authorization codes for each NPI. Now, if we're talking an organization, that's a little different. If you're talking individual providers, I think it depends on, like, say, for instance, a hospital. The OA is for that hospital, even though there's providers working under that. Now, if a provider, just like we saw that some providers could be affiliated with other office administrators on their record, but they have their own office administrator that handles their NPI. But I will, I guess, Angela, also, what kind of, I take it you're an organization, and I can dive into that a little bit more. I'll check with people and see. I don't think there's any shortcuts, but I can see what they say when I ask them. If the office administrator works remote in another state, how do they still need a NCID? Yes, if they're an OA for a provider, and that provider, even if the provider's in North Carolina, they need that ID. Now, if they're OA in another state and the provider's out of state as well, if you're in North Carolina Medicaid, you need that NCID. So both the provider and the office administrator. Angela, I am pretty sure, but I'll triple check, double check. Um, with a large organization, you're changing the organization OA. You're not changing each individual rendering provider or all the supporting NPIs. Um, they may be affiliated with your organization, but my guess is most of them will have their own office administrator. So you may be, they may be affiliated with your organization, but you're not handling their records, their individual records. Okay, let me see. The information to call to get the authorization code. Yes, I can, Mickey. Let me pull that up. Let me go back. Nope. So there's that information. And with that, they are going to also ask for a little bit more information. They will probably ask for the last check write amount and date. Right. They'll ask for the most recent remittance. So you'll need to have that as well. And like I said, don't shoot the messenger. This is what the state has put in place, and that the call center has to ask for to get that information for you. It's one of those things. Okay. And I have one last thing as we're going through questions. We have a short survey, and I'll also put you can either use your phone to get that, or I'll put the link in the chat. And what this does for us is, if there's training that you want that you don't see us offering, it could be because we don't have that training, and we can go to the state and say, hey, the providers are asking for this training. Can we create this training? That's sort of how it works. So there's a lot of questions in there about today's training, but there's one question: what kind of training would you like to see in the future, or whatever? Please fill that out, because that gives us leverage when we go to the state and say, hey, state, this is what they're asking. Can we create this training? And Jamie, of course, I will share it with all, have something similar, and we'll get that answer to you. And if there is no other questions, that is our training for today, for this morning. There is one this afternoon. I'm trying to think what it's on. Let me see. This afternoon's, it's on recipient eligibility verification. So Sean will be working that this afternoon at 1 o'clock. You're welcome, Jamie. Thank you for attending today. I hope you found it helpful. One advantage is if I have your work email, you'll also have mine when I send you information, as well as I'll put the other trainers' emails in there too. So if you ever have questions that unique information or unique situations, you can always reach out, and we can either get you in touch with those that would be most helpful, or direct you, or even give you that information. Is there a billing agent training? That's a good question. I know we as trainers don't have that. We do have a page on the here for billing agents, trading partners, trading partner information. And this gives us, here's quick links to all different things with that. Trading partner frequently asked questions, all the companion guides for this, as well as a list of trading partners, trading partner information. And here, if there's specific things for business partner and you want one-on-one help with that, you can call the NC Tracks Operations Contact Center, 1-800-688-6696, and ask for provider relations. They work one-on-one with people to help them get over issues with NC Tracks, with also provide training one-on-one, or they can also connect you with the individuals that manage our EDI trading partner systems. So that's something you can do. And I'll put that number again in chat. And this is for the call center. And that is our training. Thank you for attending today. I appreciate it.